In the previous Chapter 2 topics, we learned how to create a data set using a data statement, input and data lines of SAS code. There's more than one way we could have done this. This is just one of those where things are space delimited. That is, at least one space separates pieces of information or values of variables. And don't forget, when we have character variables, the variable name is followed by a space and a $sign in the input statement. That $sign is not necessary anywhere else in the program, but only on the input statement. Additionally, we learned how to add titles and footnotes to customize our output, and we can continue that now, and it becomes a good idea then for any of our future objectives so that we can identify these in the output. But what we're going to start with next then is this final topic in Chapter 2, and that's the sort procedure. Once we have a data set, it may be of interest to us to order it either alphabetically, numerically, and those values, numeric values, could be in either ascending or descending order. Likewise, for the alphabet, it can be either A to Z or Z to A, whichever we choose. The default for SAS is to sort things in ascending order, and to sort things we use the sort procedure. So we write proc sort, and then we specify the data set on which it's to operate, so data equals test. And then how do you wish to sort it? According to the variable name, so the by statement name. We saw a by statement occur earlier in Chapter 2 on the print procedure, but we haven't discussed it yet with the print procedure, and so we'll see that come up in the next objective 2.11. So for now in objective 2.10, what we want to do is take the test data, and as it was created in objective 2.7, that is, we have title case in the input line, and we want to put them in alphabetic order according to student name. Okay, so we sort the dataset test by name. Now notice here the two SAS statements are in the same line, but as long as they're punctuated, it's okay. You could put those in separate lines if you wanted to. Either way is okay. Now when we start introducing multiple procedures, as you see here, procedure sort, procedure print, notice we get these horizontal reference lines, and so this is another function of the enhanced editor, that it's delineating for us. These statements for the sort procedure go together, and these statements for the print procedure go together. So there wasn't anything I did that created those horizontal lines. That's a function of the enhanced editor. We also see an accumulation of things that were in the previous objectives that we were running, and so if I want to reset the log windows in the results viewer, recall we can use the display manager commands, where we take display manager and then open the single quote log, clear that log window, ODS results, and clear it. That clears the results viewer. Close the quote and add a semicolon. So I usually set those apart with an additional line in there. You'll see another appearance of the horizontal line there. If you have any defined lines of title, you could clear those, as well as footnote. So those become kind of perhaps a standard that you include at the top of your program, so that way you know everything is reset for the program you're about to run. Again, if you want those titles or footnotes to carry forward, then don't put those statements there. Likewise, if you want information to accumulate in the log window or in the results viewer, then you would take those out of the display manager command. So here I'm just going to do a reset on all of the output, and we're going to run this program. Notice this information cleared in the log window. Everything cleared. Our first line in the log window is the line 115, so it didn't start at 1. It's a new, and so there's no history of what we've done during this SAS session. We look through the collection of statements here in the log window, and I see the code that I've written with some inserted notes. I don't see any problems in terms of invalid data or anything with warnings. My dataset test has 6 observations or lines and 4 variables, and that is 4 columns. That's correct. The sort procedure operates on that. The sort procedure itself does not produce any printed output, only sorts things in SAS memory. And then we can, in order to see the impact of that sort procedure, we follow it with a print procedure. In the print procedure, I've suppressed the observation numbers that SAS prints by default, and in the objective we were instructed to print only the student names and grades. So therefore, when I wrote the program, I suppressed the observation numbers, and the variable statement, I wanted the name and the grade. And so now when I look at this list here, it went from Bill, Helen, Stephen, etc. Now I see it's Bill, Carla, Dana. So we can see that these are alphabetized according to the names given in this grade, in this data set called test. Additionally, we can see that the Objective 2.10 title has been included. Okay, so if we decide we want things in another order, we can do that. And so that is, let's look at, we have the names in alphabetical order, and so we can always put a print procedure, pardon me, a by statement on any procedure. And so for us, we're going to look at that with the print procedure as well. So in Objective 2.11, we're to sort the test data set so that the lowest grades are listed first, and for grades that are the same, list the student names in alphabetical order. So grade here is the important variable, so it's the letter grade, lowest grades first. So that means for us, it would be grade letters A, B, C, D, F. We have no Fs, we have no Ds. That's good news. We have a C and some Bs and an A, so we want grade letter C first, followed by grade B, followed by grade A. Then within each grade level, list the student names in alphabetical order. So that's going to require kind of a 2-level sorting, and so we can do the following. If we want to sort things here, not necessarily by name now, but we want to sort it by descending grades, and then ascending name. If I don't put anything in front of name, then it's going to keep that in ascending order. So the descending modifier only modifies the variable that comes immediately after it. So this is going to sort by grade first in descending order, and then it's going to sort in ascending order name within each level of grade. We want to print the names and the grades again, just like we did above. We're going to change this to our Objective 2.11, and this is the first thing we're asked to do, so we're going to call this part 1. In the second part, we are asked to print the data by grade, and so when we look at the language used in the objective, it says print by grade. So that means we need a print procedure, and we want to print again only the names and the grades of the students. Okay, and so if we print by grade, and the grade has been sorted in descending order, so if I want to use grade again in a by statement, it has to be compatible with the way it was sorted up here. So I have to repeat the descending here. And then I need a VAR statement, and I want to identify the names. So could I have put grade in this VAR statement as well? I could, but it would be redundant, and we can look at that shortly. But let's run what we have here. So I don't see any problems right off with the enhanced editor identifying an error, so we go ahead and run this. It clears everything, so I start with Objective 2.11, Part 1, and so I have the grades C, B, and A. I have 3 grades of B here, and then notice the student names are in ascending alphabetical order within grade level B. Also within grade level A, the students are in ascending order. The second part of this, that print by grade, and so it puts this delimiter for grade ahead of each table. So when there's only one student in the list, that looks a little awkward perhaps, but this sample is a small size, so if we had much longer lists, that would be more convenient. But to contrast, we could have modified our program. We could have put both name and grade in this second part. And in fact, when I do this, I'm going to take this statement, I'm going to copy. I'll do a few things on screen here that you don't see in the book. This is actually what Objective 212 is. So we don't need actually Title II on this part. Another thing we can do is once we create this data set test, as long as it's created and there are no errors in it, SAS holds it in memory, so I don't have to go back and rerun the whole program. I can come up here and I can just highlight the blocks of statements I need, and as long as I pick up a run statement, then that should run for me. I don't have to recreate the data set. And so that's a time-saving feature. Notice though we get things to accumulate, which is okay. So for Objective 2.12 I have grades here, but I also have grade as a column in the table, and that's what I meant earlier when I said this is a little bit redundant. So this is one of the exercises that was left for you whenever you read through Chapter 2. So the sort procedure is very handy. Again, it doesn't produce any printed output by itself, but means we can take a compatible by statement for that sort and we can put that by statement on other procedures. We don't have another procedure just yet other than the print procedure, but whenever we look at things for any kind of a computation or any other data manipulation, we can put a by statement in there. So the key points for us to remember are what's compatible here. So we can write by descending grade, that's compatible. We could write leave no by statement, that's compatible. Could we have written by name? And no, we couldn't. If we would have done this instead, pick up a couple of these and a run statement and said instead here, do this by name. The data are sorted by descending grade first and then name. So if we run this, just pick up that bit of code. Okay, first of all, notice the Objective 2.12 repeats, even though I had no title statement here, because this title statement for Objective 2.12 is still active. It's a global statement. I didn't clear it or change it or anything. I can look at the log window. Well, as you saw, we saw something show up here. We have Objective 2.12 repeated and only Carla with grade C written here. We don't have the rest of the data. So here I have an incomplete output. If I go to the log window, it tells me that this data set test is not sorted in an ascending sequence. The current by group was name, and the next one was bill, so that meant that the names are out of order. So it assumes then, go back to the larger print here, that the data are in order by name if we're going to make this request to print by name. So depending upon the severity of this sorting error, you may get a partial output such as we did here, or if your error is severe enough, it could result in no output being produced. Okay, so it's always beneficial then for us to look at the log window and make sure that we don't have any errors such as this here. If I wanted to fix this, I would have to change it back to descending grade, or I would need to insert another sort procedure, say in here before this procedure, if I wanted to have things sorted by name. So I'd have to do that sort by name first. So you can experiment with how to sort, and especially for how this by statement works and the types of delimiters that are created in between the tables of results. That's all for Chapter 2. We'll pick up again in Chapter 3.